What a beautiful story, Bethany's story. But one of the things that it makes me think of is just our vision. Our vision is to see Jesus transform thousands of hearts through the people of fellowship. So through people like you and Bethany who start to follow Jesus. And as we follow Jesus with our whole heart, we're changed from the inside out. And as we're transformed, as we understand his grace in our life, understand his generosity towards us, we start to view the world a little bit different. And that's what happened in her story. She started to view the world a little bit different and to see the needs around her of the people that God had placed in her life already. And she started to look through that lens of, what does that look like for me to steward what God has done into others' lives? And the other thing I want you to see is in Bethany's story, it wasn't just Bethany did this on her own and she was self-sufficient and she was able to do it on her own. It is living into our mission, which is to become a community of people who follow Jesus with our whole heart and help others do the same. And it was in that community that helped her live into what God was calling her to do. And that's what we're wanting to see happen more and more, is become a community of people that reach out and help each other in that journey of what God is calling us to do, and then see the world of how can we help others follow Jesus with their whole heart. And so what a beautiful picture of that story being lived out in our vision.
Turn your Bibles to Ephesians chapter 4. I want to connect some dots with you for a few minutes to this text. And, as Eric just said, this mission that we have and this vision of seeing Jesus transform people through us, what a remarkable thing. And I want to share with you a passage that's always meant something significant to our church over, I guess it's now 28 years of Fellowship Bible Church's history. Ephesians 4, verses 11 through 13 have been a significant part of what we keep coming back to. And then I want to connect the dots to what we're talking about this morning with buildings and facilities in the future. So let me read this. It's on the screen as well. Ephesians 4, 11 through 13. And he gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the shepherds, and teachers to equip the saints for the work of ministry, for building up the body of Christ, until we all attain to the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God, to mature manhood, to the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. Every time I think about our church, and I think about what God's done over all these years in the equipping, the constant teaching, the constant training, the constant equipping. But the interesting thing about these verses is what Paul is calling the church to is not just to sort of say, hey, support the people who do the ministry through your gifts and through your talents. He's saying the people who are on the stage, so to speak, the prophets, the teachers, the apostles, these kinds of things, are called to lead you and equip you so that you do the work of the ministry. In fact, let me change the you to we. Because me and Eric and Lloyd and anyone that's up here teaching and our elders as well, we're a part of this body with you. And God is calling us, myself as a teacher, and Eric and shepherds and leaders that we have here, to equip the body. Now, don't let the word saints throw you off on here when you see that word. In our modern context, sometimes we think, oh, those are the men and women on the stained glass windows, the ones, the really holy people. And if you're from certain church traditions, there's a whole saints thing out there. When the New Testament uses the word saints, it's talking about you and me. He's talking about everyone who's a follower of Jesus. We've been made set apart. We've been made holy. We are the saints that Paul is describing. So my job as a pastor, Lloyd's job, Eric's job, our elders' job, staff members, it's to equip the saints, all of us together, to do the work of the ministry. So people like Bethany Moore that are out there just saying, what about me? Did you hear that question she asked in the video? She said, someone's got to love these kids. What about me? I love the spirit of that. She's jumping in. And so we want to invite you this morning to jump in with us to the mission, to the vision. Yes, we are going to be talking about buildings. No, the church is not a building. The church is the people that are equipped and sent to do the work of the ministry. That's the church. But here's the thing, you all. We've been able to become a church over these almost 30 years because we've had a place to meet. We've got our Brentwood campus. We now have our Franklin campus. And because of that, we've been able to become a community. We've been able to become a group of people. So the church started out meeting in homes because that's all they had. But when it started growing, what it became necessary was larger spaces to gather. So we gather and then we're scattered out. And that's how the rhythm goes every week. We're gathered in to worship and learn and be equipped. And then we're scattered out to do the work of the ministry. So we're talking this morning primarily about our gathering spaces. And as you all know, we've been in a rented facility here at our Franklin campus ever since we started. It served us really well. But for 8 years now, we've been looking and praying for a permanent home. God's provided that for us. A year ago, we came to you and the Brentwood campus both, and we said we have two primary challenges as we think about our mission and vision for the future, two primary facility challenges. These are on the screen. At our Brentwood campus, it's about connection space. They don't have a lobby. They don't have a space to gather, and equipping space. We want to be able to do more classes at both campuses, and we haven't had the facilities to do that. At the Franklin campus, it's what I've already said, a permanent campus location. So these are the two primary challenges, and as we prayed about it as an elder team, we felt like God was kind of giving us an additional challenge in a way, which is to do these things without any debt. Now, why did we land there as an elder team? We don't theologically believe that debt is wrong in all cases, but we had just paid off our debt as a church a couple years ago, if you all remember that. And so we were able to sort of experience the freedom that comes with not having any debt, to be able to do more ministry, and we want to be able to continue that. We think God's put us in a position to be able to continue that. So those are the two primary challenges. We said we were going to try to tackle this with God's help, without debt, and that catches you up to where we were a year ago. Here are the numbers that we talked about. Again, this is a little bit of a review, but a $30 million total project cost for both of those campuses. That includes the purchase of the land at Franklin. $15 million is already sort of in our hands, so to speak, which is amazing, through some savings and budget surplus and land sale of part of the Brentwood property that we sold specifically so that we could be moving forward in these areas. That left $15 million as a campaign goal for 3 years. So we're now 1 year in to the 3-year goal. I know you're wondering, well, where are we? Did we hit the goal? No, we didn't. So let me share that with you in a few minutes. In fact, I'll save the financial numbers because I want to hold that for just a minute. Eric's going to say something first. But I will say this, we committed, no matter what we get, that's what we'll build. It's just sort of that idea. Now, what you find is you can't get on the property without a certain base level, right? And then beyond there, we've been working through in the last year to sort of scale what we can do. So let me let Eric catch you up a little bit on the journey of the last 12 months, and then I'll come back and let you know here's where we are from a financial perspective.
Yeah, so for the last year, when we first talked to you guys, kind of where we were setting out to do and inviting you into that journey, it kind of goes before the year, but we started looking for property for a permanent space 8 years ago. So I've looked at over 100 properties of kind of just walking through all that thing, and so we landed on this piece of property on 1190 Lewisburg. One of the things that came up was, well, we can't actually move forward with this piece of property until the city of Franklin amends its Envision Franklin, kind of their long-term plans. And so we had to go before BOMA, which is the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. And you guys remember that journey of asking them to vote for allow us to build this piece of property, to make it a church, which it wasn't zoned to be a church. And so that rezoning process was a fun one, I will say. And so I got to know city stuff and all the different projects. So I know every project coming in the city of Franklin in the next year. So if you want to nerd out with me, happy to do that. Happy to talk about In-N-Out Burger coming and all of that. But we would sit through these meetings and then present and neighbors and feedback and all of those things. And so there's high points in that journey, and there's challenges, and we'll talk about the challenges in a minute with the city and requirements. But some big dates. As April 23rd, the city of Franklin, BOMA, voted to let us rezone this piece of property and to be able to move forward with submitting a development plan to build a church on this piece of property. So that was a monumental day, because if they said no, we were gonna have to start that whole process of looking or tweaking or doing again. And we'd already spent 8 years looking at pieces of property, knowing what we wanted and kind of getting into this zone. So that was a huge day. So that allowed us, that rezoning vote allowed us to move forward with signing a contract and closing on the property. And so another big date was June 5th. We closed on 1190 Lewisburg, and that property became our property, which is huge. Yeah, absolutely. They didn't clap first service, okay? So you guys are way advanced than first service. So one of the things that allowed us to do was to be able to, I'm gonna show you this next slide, to be able to put this sign on the piece of property. And so I want to just a lot of you, maybe you're new and this is kind of, where is 1190 Lewisburg? I don't know every address on a road. So let me tell you where this is. So this is, if you were at Berry Farms at Paytonsville exit, this is north of Berry Farms, north of Hempec, and then it's south of Mackhatcher. So if you think about Mackhatcher and Lewisburg, where that intersects, it's just south of that. And so that's where that is. And you can't miss it because the whole front lawn is this massive green space that kind of leads up on a hill. And we'll talk about kind of the master plan and what we kind of want to lay out with that. But every time I drive by there, I just kind of pinch myself of like, man, is this happening? Like, is this really happening? So it's really exciting. And those are some of the high points over the last year.
Let me add another high point too, and that relates to the money and where we are right now with the pledges that have come in. Let me take you back a year ago. October 29th, 2023 was our reveal Sunday where we shared with you. Here's sort of the culmination of this. 541 households participating, $12 million pledged. Now, at first you might be thinking, oh, that's not very good. The goal was 15. And it is true that what we anticipated we would need is 15, and we got 12, and so we said, what can we do with 12? I do want to say, though, that when we compared to other, churches around our size, 12 million was a remarkable 3-year thing that happened. So clearly it was encouraging, and yet we leaned into the reality as we started pricing things out and kind of got to a place that with 12 million, I'm not sure that we can really do both projects, at least sufficiently enough to really feel like this was accomplishing the objectives and the purposes. But let me tell you what's happened in the last 12 months. Look at these numbers. From 541 to 720 families and up to 14,759, that has come in the last 12 months. Now, this has really honestly blown me away because I thought once the formal campaign, where we're talking about it every single Sunday like we did a year ago, once that stops, people won't keep pledging. That's not what happened. So you think almost $3 million has come in. Now, some of these are people that have joined the church in the last 12 months. Some of these are people that, for whatever reason, just sort of missed the deadline to make a pledge. Of course, there's no real deadline. It's always open, as we'll talk a little bit about. But in the last year, you all, look how close we are to that $15 million goal. Now, here's the bad news. Not bad news, here's the challenge. Just as we've gotten close to the goal, we're starting to really realize there's some challenges and the goal's getting pushed forward. So I hate saying that, but I want to be completely transparent with you. It's like we thought 15 million is what we're going to need to be able to do this, and some challenges have come up. Eric referenced these. Let me just share openly what these are. The city of Franklin, when we worked through this process, said, yes, we'll rezone this for you, but you're going to have to do more work than you anticipated on this property, some site improvements and infrastructure. That stuff gets very expensive very quickly. Some of y'all that are in the industry know this. So let me just give you one example. One of the requirements is we have to put a sidewalk along Lewisburg Road, which as Eric shared, that's a very long roadway. Now there's no other sidewalk on Lewisburg Pike. It'll just be our sidewalk, the sidewalk that leads to nowhere.
It'll be the best sidewalk in Franklin.
That's right. There are some other things as well. So we started, adding those prices in. The bottom line is to do what we feel like would be an adequate space for us on this property, along with what we're doing at Brentwood as well, is going to cost more than $15 million. I don't know if it's 16. I don't know if it's 16 and a half, 17. I don't know what it is. In fact, I shouldn't even have put out any numbers there.
Yeah, thanks. No, yeah. I mean, I think
we're still working on getting it dialed in.
I think the thing too is like we had contingencies built in our, like when we presented to you guys, like we're basing it on this price of square foot, which actually was a high-end price of square foot. So we were being wise with all those things. What we couldn't anticipate was some of the infrastructure things of extending the sewer to the edge of our property and the water. I could nerd out of what is going to cost more, but one of the things is we just couldn't do what the city was going to require us to do infrastructure-wise, which is going to cost, more.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to have back probably in the next month or two very specific architectural pricing based on the renderings that you're going to see today. And we will know exactly, what it will cost in more detail than we have before. When we know, we'll come and we'll share with you this is what it's going to be. In the meantime, I want to say two more things. Number one, these are our commitments. By God's grace, a permanent location at Franklin. Whatever we can build, we're going to build. We want to be able to get on that place. Connection and training space for Brentwood, and we're not going to take on any debt. So as we saw the prices increase, it was tempting to say, there's 30 different banks out there we could go to that would love to loan us, an organization our size without any debt. They would love to loan us a few $1,000,000 or whatever it would cost. That's not how the Spirit led us. So we're coming before you this morning just saying this is where we are. We don't know the final number. We'll share it with you when we do. We know it'll be more than 15 million, but look what God has done in 1 year. I have such confidence that God is leading us to be a Spirit-dependent people. And it's almost like, from my perspective, he's been meeting the need before we even fully knew what the need was going to be. So we want to encourage you to be a part of this, and we'll talk more about that at the end. But this is the update on where we are.
Yeah, and 720 households, participating in that. We, have anywhere from like 1,200 plus households, and so we just want to encourage you, invite you to consider what does that look like to join in. What is that? We want everyone to be a part of this, not because of just the financial piece of this, but there is a kind of an equity kind of thing of like when you step on a property and say, I help be a part of this. And this is a really exciting time for us to consider thinking about where God has placed us in this campus is a regional place within our city. It's, it's right off of the new kind of growth that's happening in there. And how many people need to hear the gospel, that need to hear what it looks like to follow Jesus, need help with parenting and marriage and all sorts of different pain points that they have in their life. And we get to be the people that say, hey, we want to help you follow Jesus. We want to help you encounter the living Christ that can change your life. Like that's why we want everyone to be a part of this and to join. And so I want to kind of walk you through what the process has looked like from a project team that I've been on to be able to work with architects and be able to design a space. And so I want to let you in just a little bit of how do you start designing a space? Well, first we take our vision, we take our mission, our core values, and say, how do we reflect those in a piece of property within a building? And so what we did is we sat down, and one of the passages that has become very familiar was in the Old Testament when they were building the tabernacle and building the temple. God gave people and filled them with the Spirit to build those spaces with intentionality. So if you go back and read those passages, you'll see the intentionality of those spaces. And why is that? Well, space communicates. Space matters. Like when you step into a restaurant, if it doesn't have a good aesthetic, the food, it has to be way superior for you to go back. Space communicates. And so we took that and we said, okay, we want to be really intentional with our piece of property to say, everything we do here, we want it to communicate, you are welcome, you are invited, and we want to change your rhythm right when you step on this property of what would it look like for you to slow down, to become a community of people, to belong here, to build relationships, for us to be a family of faith. Like, what does that look like for us to live that out through architecture, to live that out with space, to be intentional, a relational space? And so that's what we have designed. That's kind of the narrative kind of driving the space and what we did. So I want to show you what we're going to do at Brentwood campus. And so the Brentwood campus was an established place. And so they had the Learning Center building and the Worship Center building, but they didn't have any space in the middle. Now, it was always our hope, even when they did this 25 years ago, to have a space where everyone could come in and enjoy that. And one of the things they don't have is a lobby space. And so they don't have that space where you can kind of have longer conversations, say, and pull off aside. Collective all here, they don't have coffee. Isn't that so sad? Don't you feel so sad for the people at Brentwood? But this is
Not
from
really, honestly.
yeah. So this is kind of the front angled place, so you'll be able to drop off, kind of have this covered porch.
Hold on, I'm supposed to be keeping up with you on this, so both sides can see this. Can you guys see these little things? Okay.
Okay, great.
All right, so you I don't know if this is gonna work, Eric. You tell me where to point. I'll
Well,
point.
yeah, there you go, right in there. Like, here, follow my lead. There you go. It's like, is that super helpful for you guys? Okay,
Yeah.
let's go to the next slide.
All right.
So this is from the quad view of this is the pond, kind of looking back towards. This is the back of the new connection space with the big porch there. And so one of the things that we wanted to do is create a quad at both campuses in our master plan where we had a park-esque type feel. So a walking path throughout the whole thing. So during the week, you can use that really long sidewalk at Franklin connected to a kind of a prayer path that you can kind of walk. And if you're a mom and you want to meet up with another mom in a stroller and kind of take long walks together, you can do that. We wanted to create this place where kids and families could kind of step into the quad and parents could have a conversation. If you're an individual, you can have a coffee, have a conversation on the porch. We want to be an intentional relational space is the main thing. So let's go into the space. This is the back porch. It's a large back porch. What I want you to kind of picture back here is, Cracker Barrel has like 1 million rocking chairs. Okay, so that's kind of the kind of thing of looking out on this picturesque kind of space, but having a covered space. One of the things living in Tennessee, I'm originally from Michigan, you would not have a large covered porch in Michigan at your church because you can't use it as much. We can use it at least 9 months out of the year here. And so that's one of the spaces we want to take advantage of. When we built the space, when we kind of gave the architects, we can go to the next slide, one of the things we wanted to create was not only a lobby gathering space on Sunday mornings, but also a place that could be a venue. And so this venue space in the middle here can host up to 300 people in rows of chairs, 230 at rounds. So we can do celebrations, we can do different events, we can do trainings, conferences, all sorts of different things, wedding receptions, all sorts of different things can happen here and then spill out into this indoor-outdoor space here. There will be 2 classrooms here that will be kind of training space. So think of our intro class and larger classroom space. This is connection into the learning center, and this is connection into the worship center there. Let me show you one. I think that might be it.
Hold on. These people right here, they must be visitors to fellowship.
Yeah.
And this guy,
suit and tie.
They're wearing the
It is
suit.
so funny. On one of these renderings, you're always, you don't want to see the renderings without people because it looks creepy. But I am in a rendering, and it's like, it is me. And so everyone jokes, like, where are you in this rendering? So on your way out, like, try to find yourself in these. You never know. You might be in one of our renderings.
Yeah.
And then this is kind of a cafe space, and this is kind of off to the side here, but a kind of a kitchen that we can use for catering. But we can host large event spaces here. There's 3 openings, so we can put the food out here, kind of flow back into the room. So this is gonna be a multi-purpose space that has training, conference, all of that can happen in that space at Brentwood. Now, I know you guys are really excited to see what we've been designing and thinking about for Franklin. So let's move to the Franklin campus. So again, one of the things is you're driving down Lewisburg, this would be heading south, from this way would be heading north. This is that large open field space that kind of slopes up. And so what we did is we're gonna move the drive to connect with the space across, the neighborhood across. But this drive is gonna kind of take you up and it's gonna kind of slow you down. Everything is designed in a way where once you hit past this tree line, you do not hear Lewisburg Pike traffic at all because it's a hill. And so you get down into this valley space. And so that's one of the reasons we designed the space to be in the very back. And so you can see that this house is, the current house is there, 10,000 square feet. So it's a really small, quaint little house on top of the hill. But we're gonna use that space. Mrs. Cross still lives in there. And so one of our commitments to the family was, we don't wanna have Mrs. Cross move out. And so if you guys are good with it, we want her to stay in her house. And so she will be there. I think she's
92.
92, maybe just turning 93. And so we want her to stay in her house. And so we will take ownership of that house when she's no longer with us. And one of the things that will be is office space, kind of training space, classroom space. We'll have more advantage of there. This is the parking lot back here. It's all the way in the very back of the property. What we've learned here in this space, which is something unique that we didn't think we would kind of adapt to, is it is a major plus for everyone to enter in from one place and to come into a space. Like, that is very intentional. We want to keep that. This is the worship center on this side, learning center, and then this is kind of the connection space that bridges that together. We can go to the next slide there. So this is looking from the back of the property, looking into it. This is the learning center. You'll see a slide that has a large porch, and that is gonna be a multi-purpose room coming off here. So I just wanna highlight where that is on the slide. And then this is the worship center here, and then the connection space. Everything is gonna kind of point you and pull you into this quad space. Again, we want this campus to be a place where it is setting apart a rhythm for you and your family. So we want you to slow down when we gather. So when you come on this property, we want this rhythm to be a place very intentionally designed to kind of slow you down to where you are not just coming for a service and then you're leaving right away. We want you to stay. We want you to have connections. We're imagining having food trucks and all sorts of different things on Sundays, certain Sundays, to kind of create a rhythm of like, hey, we want you to become a family. This is why we have designed our space in this way, really intentionally. Let's go to the next slide. This is looking from the quad. Again, you can see this kind of walking path that will connect to our long and winding front sidewalk space. But this is a view from the back of the building. Look, this is the worship center. This is the connection space, and then learning center. We're trying to right-size the pond. We hope to have a water feature. That will depend on whether we can find water on the piece of property. And so that's something that we would hope to have of some type of feature like that. And go to the next slide. So this is that venue space. This is a large group learning center classroom on Sundays. One of the things we love is for the kids to be able to come in together into a larger space, to be able to worship together, and then to be able to have breakouts in similar classrooms. So we're gonna have a space like that. This space will also be midweek. This will be where like moms together and some of our studies will kind of be hosted in that space. And then you also have this large covered porch. This is a retaining wall here, but before the retaining wall, you're gonna have kind of a concrete pad over here. There may be pickleball if we can raise some more funds, things like that. Will be kind of back in here, some turf, if we can find some turf, that'd be awesome to kind of have in there. But again, one of these spaces is connected to kind of a playground area. So again, if you're a parent of young kids, I remember when my kids were really young, you're just trying to keep them alive and keep them together. So what if there was a space where they could go where where they are? That allows me to relax a little, to have a eye-to-eye conversation with somebody else. And that's why we've designed this kind of space in the way it is. It's gonna serve really well for venue space throughout the week as well. And then again, the indoor-outdoor space. We can go to the next slide. Okay, I wanna pause here. This is one of the things that's probably, you're like, okay, explain this space, and it's very different than the space that we're in here right now. When we took over this 18,000 square feet, this is a warehouse. You are in a warehouse space. And so we had to convert this into, okay, how do we create this to be a worship center? Like, what does that look like? When we started looking at, okay, what would we want our space to look like when someone came into a worship space? What would we want them to do? Well, we would want them to have this immediate sense of reverence and for the architecture to point and lift their eyes up. And so one of the things that we've been able to create is right here, this is still large, it's tall space. So this is about 16 feet to about 23 feet. And then it goes up even more, slants, and then goes up again. And so it has natural light that's gonna point your eyes upwards. And so also the natural light, we're gonna be able to control it and be able to dim that area as well. But the natural light allows us to remember that we are a community of people, that we can see one another as we're worshiping, and we're in a space that even the space and the architecture, there's a purpose of why they built cathedrals the way they did, to lift up your eyes. There's something to that natural light and lifting up your eyes. So this is one of the spaces that we're still in the works of, like, what is the stage gonna look like and all those different things. But this is one of the things that we're really, really excited about. I think that's the last one.
Yep.
So the natural question you are asking is like, okay, when do we start building? How long is this gonna take? And so I wanna just answer those questions right now. So Brentwood campus, spring of 25, we're submitting the plans for the building to the city of Brentwood. They'll give some feedback. That will move much, much faster than our process at Franklin. And then that will be under a year or under to complete once we start that. Franklin campus, we're in the process. We did pre-submittal of our development plan to them, got the feedback. That's where all the infrastructure stuff started to come up. So now we're having this back and forth with them on our plan. But our hope is to start the middle of 2025, and it's going to take a year and a half to complete. So that's kind of the process. The great thing about our Franklin building is that we're going to be able to do it without having to have things happening on the property at the same time. So we're going to be able to give them free reign just to go and build. And again, one of the things that what we showed you are renderings. So this is like, we don't want you to get like locked in, because when pricing comes back, we're going to have to probably do some value engineering around some certain things. But this is, as we have talked as leadership and have brought people in who are experts in their field and brought many of our body in to hear and weigh in this. And one of the things is, this is what we would like to build. This is what we would actually like to pursue. I would love to not only just build like only the bare minimum to get on our Franklin campus, but let's do it now, so we don't have to come back and try to build onto while we're already on campus. Like, let's do it when it's blank, and let's commit to doing that. So again, that's going to take all of us, and that's why we want to invite everyone in. And this is really exciting when we think about what is this space going to communicate to. Not only how is it going to form us and shape us as a community, but how is it going to shape and transform our community itself? So just really excited.
So let me give us a call to action. I know many of you have already been a part of this, and you've made a pledge. And can I just say, I'm so grateful, because the things that you just saw, we're able to dream about those because of where we are in our pledges. And so thank you. Very grateful for that. Some of you are new to fellowship, or maybe you're not new to fellowship, but you're not a part of this. And what I want to join in with Eric saying is, for all of us to come together to do something like this makes it that much more special. We don't have like a multi-billionaire person that attends this church that I know of. If
you're here,
come forward.
I'd love to meet.
My point is, we don't have one person out there that's saying, hey, whatever y'all need, to see this vision reality, I'll stroke a check for that. It's going to come from us going from 720 families participating to 800 families to 850. Whatever it is.
And that's what we want.
And that honestly is what we want, because of that sense of ownership for us, the people of fellowship. So if you're not a part of this, jump in. Be a part of this. We want to encourage you to do that. And maybe you're at a place where you can make a significant gift. Maybe it's a small gift. You're still just as much in. And so we really want to encourage you to be a part of that. I had a moment about 2 or 3 months ago. As I was sitting with Richard Scott, who's works with Eric as another one of our executive pastors and is on an executive team with us. And Richard was walking through, hey, we don't exactly know where the numbers are, but this is going to be more than we thought. You're talking about the infrastructure things, and that's going to be more than we thought. And I will admit to you all, I first went to a place of, what's going to happen? Like, we have what we have. We're not going to do debt. Like, are we going to have to build Franklin campus without a connection space? Like, after having enjoyed a lobby for 8 years, we move on a campus without a lobby, and we would do that if we need to. But then my what's going to happen shifted, and I want to tell you all why it shifted. I went back to the meeting that I was with on the elder team when we felt led by the Spirit to say we're not going to take on any debt. I realized that leadership of the Spirit put us in a place of dependence on God. Every time in my life I've ever been at a place of dependence on God, amazing things have happened. It's not always what I anticipate, but it always is more. It always is sometimes harder, but always more rich than what I could have anticipated, always deeper and more sculpting and developing for me. So I know you all have had similar experiences in your life when God puts you in a position to trust him and remarkable things happen. I want to tell you that's what's happening to our church in this. And it's his goodness, I think, to invite us into a place of dependence on him. Because with 14.7, could we build some things? Yes, we could. It's not going to be what we would need to be able to become a community over the long term. And so to Eric said, I just want to invite you to jump in. Let's see what God does together. And as our cost numbers come in and as the giving comes in, I just have a feeling God is going before us in this. And we're only going to go as far as he allows, but I think he's doing something remarkable in our midst. And I want to invite you to be a part of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to invite you right now just to pray. I think one of the things I want to do is just turn our hearts to gratitude. And so individually, I want to just lead us right now to personally and then corporately. So would you pray with me? Father, we recognize that you lead us, that you are our provision, that you guide us, that you've given us your spirit that indwells us. And so right now, I want each of us just to ask, as we come to you this morning, what are we grateful for? God, we're grateful for, and I want you to fill that in. It could be small things this morning. I know there's a lot of hard that may be happening in your life, but what right now can you look to God and say, God, thank you for? Father, we collectively now come back together and we turn our eyes to you and we say, God, we are grateful that you have led us each part of the way. God, we're grateful that right now there's breath in our lungs. There's people sitting next to us, that we're reminded that we need one another, that we need to become a community of people. And so thank you for giving us people that are walking alongside of us. Thank you for the relationships that you've given to us in this church. Thank you for how you are leading us. Thank you that we actually are in a place that we can even think and consider what does the future look like, and that we're dreaming and we're thinking about. Thank you that we're in that space as a church. And so God, we, with gratitude, recognize it is from you. We recognize and trust you. We recognize that even in this, the windings and the things that happen in our journeys that aren't exactly what we would have hoped or longed for, you are conforming us to your image as an individual people and as a corporate group of people, your church. And so we turn and we say thank you. Thank you for leading us in the way that you do continually. In your name, amen.
I want to invite you to stand to your feet. We are going to close our service in worship, and we're going to do that two ways. The first way is we're going to read together as a body the verses that I read earlier as our call to worship, and then that's going to lead us into another song where we express this gratitude that we've just been praying about. So read these words with me. We'll put them on the screen. This is from Psalm 95, 1-2, and verse 7. Read these with me together. Oh, come, let us sing to the Lord. Let us make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation. Let us come into his presence with thanksgiving. Let us make a joyful noise to him with songs of praise. For the Lord is a great God, and we are the people of his pasture and the sheep of his hand. Amen. Let's sing together.